We're now going to be solving one variable absolute value inequalities. If you remember from solving absolute value equations, we work out two cases when we deal with absolute values. Since that is the case, these kind of work out as compound inequalities, similar to the ones we just finished doing. Well, we're looking at if the absolute value is by itself and we have a less than or equal to, the inequality should end up working out like an AND problem did. Whereas if we take a second look at number 16, if the absolute value is by itself and it works out to be a greater than, these typically work out, or should work out, to look like an OR problem. Now, as pointed out, we're going to work these out similar to the way we did the absolute value equation, so we're going to have two cases. Number 15, the first case, we would write out the same as we were given, just dropping the absolute values. So we're going to have negative 6a is less than or equal to 60. And then if you remember, for the second case, when we did the equations, we had to switch the sign on the part that was outside the absolute value. So we're going to make it a negative 60. The catch with the inequalities, however, is the direction of the inequality here must switch when we switch the sign. Now, as far as solving goes, we go through our normal steps. So in this case, we're going to divide by negative 6. And we will get a and negative 10. Now remember, got to be careful when we do inequalities. When we divide by a negative number, the direction of the inequality must switch. So that has to become a greater than or equal to. Going to the one on the right, once again, we're going to divide by that negative 6. We'll get our a, we'll get 10. And then once again, because we were dividing by a negative number, the direction of the inequality must switch. As far as graphing the answer goes, we have a is greater than or equal to negative 10, so we find the negative 10, put a closed circle, and we should be going to the right. A is less than or equal to 10, so closed circle around the 10, and we should be working it out to the left. And as you will see that we are doing the section in the middle, we are overlapping. If you remember, we can either write it out this way with the AND. As another option, we can write it as negative 10 is less than or equal to a, which is less than or equal to 10, showing that the variable a is between the negative 10 and 10. All right, for 16, once again, we're going to write it out with the two cases. We'll do one with 6n plus 10 is greater than 26. And we're going to do one with 6n plus 10, negative 26. Remember, when you switch the sign, we have to switch the direction of the inequality. As far as the math goes, let's take a look at, subtract the 10. We're going to divide by 6. If we simplify this, 16 over 6 should give us 8/3. Or if we'd rather, since we have to graph this on the number line, this would be 2 and 2/3. And we work it out on the right. We end up with n is less than negative 6. As far as graphing goes, all right, so we got the 2 and 2/3, so that will be somewhere between 2 and 3. Need to put an open circle here, so we're going to approximate that. And we're going to shade to the right. N is less than negative 6, open circle there, less than going to the left. So We've got our whisker case, so it does work out looking like an OR, just like we expected. Now, moving on to 17. Note that we cannot write out our two cases until we get the absolute value by itself. So I've taken the liberty to copy the equation over here so we can do the math. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of that minus 3 that's after the absolute value. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. Which will give us the absolute value of negative 10k. It's going to be less than or equal to 70. Now that we got the absolute value by itself, we can write out our two cases. Remember when we switched the direction of the inequality, switch the direction of the answer, we got to switch the direction of the inequality. As far as solving goes, we're going to divide by the negative 10. Once again, you've got to be careful when we divide by the negative. The direction of this inequality has to switch. Similar steps on the right. Divide by that negative. That's got to switch. You kind of as indicated before, when we have a less than or equal to, this should end up looking like an and. So let's take a look at this graph. Negative 7, close circle, and we should be going to the right. This one's less than or equal to 7. This one should be going to the left. And so we get the overlapping section. I want to write it out as one inequality being an and. We got the negative 7 is less than or equal to k is less than or equal to the 7. Hear that, or make sure you get your hand in between the answers. Last one, number 18. Got a little more to do here. Once again, I took the liberty of moving the equation over so we can isolate that absolute value. The first thing we're going to have to do is subtract 6 from both sides. Now with the 3 out front, that means it's 3 times the absolute value, so to get rid of that, we got to divide both sides by 3. Now that we have the absolute value by itself, it's isolated, we can write out our two equations. B minus 2 has got to be greater than 2, and B minus 2 needs to be less than negative 2. Math isn't too bad on this one. We're going to add 2 to both sides. So we're going to get B is greater than 4. Or B is less than 0. If we graph them, B is greater than 4, starts with an open circle, goes to the right. B is less than 0, once again, open circle going to the left. Got our whiskers, so we're looking at an OR case, which should have been what we were expecting, since it turned out to be a greater than after we isolated the absolute value. I hope this helps. Good luck.